He reincarnated with the team leader's wife, but he didn't feel happy about it at all. The first thing after reincarnating was to find every way to stay away from his wife. Even if she remained single until old age this lifetime, he still didn't want to see her again. In his previous life, attracted by her beauty, I rashly married her, but after marriage I didn't enjoy a single sweet day. Instead, I had to endure the sarcasm and mockery from her Moonlight crush. So this time, I reached a cooperation agreement with her Moonlight crush. Every time they get together, Moonlight gives me a sum of money. Wife invites me to see a movie. I immediately give the ticket to her Moonlight crush. Wife says she wants to come home for dinner. I deliberately lock the door, forcing her to stay at Moonlight's place. Wife is transferred to work in Hainan, can only bring one family member. I unhesitatingly give the opportunity to Moonlight, so when wife comes home and discovers that her hateful husband no longer clings to her, she forgets our wedding anniversary while being with Moonlight. I don't argue. Instead, I submit an application to study abroad, planning to dedicate the rest of my life to the motherland after returning. Her friends cheer, saying she and Moonlight make a perfect match. I don't object, decide to file for a mandatory divorce, personally helping them be together. This time, I no longer care where she goes, or what she does. Just waiting for the divorce application to be approved, I will withdraw from this ridiculous three-person relationship. Or the next day, I went alone to the marriage registration office. Comrade, hello. I want to apply for a mandatory divorce. After speaking, I took out the prepared documents and handed them to the other party. The other party carefully examined the documents, then said, "We have received your application. If you don't come to cancel it within a month, the mandatory divorce will officially take effect." I nodded, said thank you, and then picked up my bag and walked out of the registration office's main door. At dusk, the sun was setting, leaving a brilliant sunset glow. A light breeze passed by, reducing the heat considerably. People getting off work at the factory. 3, 4, or 5 groups riding forever bicycles, ringing their bells. Ding dong, passing by me. No one would think that I had been reincarnated once in my previous life. Wen Huaixin and I had feelings for each other. After marriage, I moved with her to the staff quarters. After marriage, though she was busy, whenever she completed a task, she would immediately come home to have dinner with me. On anniversaries and birthdays, she always prepared gifts and surprises. Monthly allowances were quite generous too, making everyone in the staff quarters envious, saying I married a good wife. A relationship everyone was jealous of, but only I knew. There was always a third person in our world, Lu Yuchen, the orphan son of Wen Huaixin's closest comrade. On my birthday, she left me to stroll with Lu Yuchen when I was sick. She left me to take care of Lu Yuchen, who was afraid of thunder. When I had a stomachache, she left me to comfort Lu Yuchen, who was upset. When the three of us went out to eat, she ordered spicy food that Lu Yuchen liked, completely forgetting I had stomach problems and couldn't eat spicy food. The three of us went mountain climbing. Lu Yuchen lost his balance, pulled me down with him, scratching my arm. She immediately helped him down the mountain. While I had to go to the hospital alone in the middle of the night, there were many such incidents. I had never made a fuss. I even willingly gave half of our household money, so Lu Yuchen would be taken care of for life, just begging Wen Huaixin not to associate with him. But each time she would say, "I just see him as a little brother. His sister once saved me. Now she's gone, leaving him alone. The only person he can rely on is me. Can't you be reasonable?" Though she said that, Lu Yuchen's feelings when looking at her were too obvious. In my previous life I lived that way until the end, arguing throughout my life, chaotic throughout my life. This lifetime, I don't want to continue this unclear entanglement. So the first thing after reincarnating was to completely end this marriage. If Wen Huaixin knew I wanted a divorce, she would absolutely refuse to sign the divorce papers. That's why I went to the registration office to apply for a mandatory divorce, because this way, only one party needs to apply. After the divorce is finalized, she will be free, and I will leave this place, live the life I want, never wanting to bind my life to this woman again. But just as I reached the entrance of the staff quarters, I stopped, since getting married. Wen Huaixin had made me quit my job. Now, I have no income. Not only will future living be difficult to guarantee, I don't even have money for a train ticket to leave, although Wen Huaixin gives me money. Every expense and reason must be reported to her. If I suddenly spend a large amount, she will certainly be suspicious. So where should I get that money? I thought for a long time, finally made a bold decision. I wanted to cooperate with Lu Yuchen, personally push Wen Huaixin toward him. So, I knocked on Lu Yuchen's door, not wasting words on pleasantries, going straight to the point. "I want to make a deal with you. I know you like Wen Huaixin. Starting from today, I will do everything to create opportunities for you two to be alone, and you just need to give me some money after it works. 1 month later, I will completely withdraw from your world." Lu Yuchen looked at me with disbelief. It took him a long while to come back to his senses. "Jiu Sime, what kind of joke are you making? How could I possibly like Sister Huaixin?" I smirked coldly. "Whether it's a joke or not, you know it yourself." Seeing the man still maintaining his stance, Lu Yuchen finally let out a cold laugh. "Yes, I like Wen Huaixin, but why should I believe you?" My expression remained calm. "I will make you believe. Tonight, she will come to you. Just prepare some dishes she likes to eat." Having said that, I didn't look at Lu Yuchen's face anymore, directly turned around and left. As soon as I opened the door, the housekeeper came up to greet me, taking my bag on one side, asking on the other, "Sir, what dishes should we prepare tonight?" I glanced at the clock hanging on the wall, calmly said, "Just make a few light dishes tonight. As for portions, only cook for one person." 9 o'clock at night, the clock chimed right on time. Shortly after, someone pushed the door open. I was eating, hearing the sound. I looked up, only to see a woman walking in. Elegant appearance, noble temperament. In her deep eyes was coldness. Wen Huaixin, while walking toward me, she took off her coat and handed it to the housekeeper beside her, seeing on the table all dishes that didn't suit her taste. Her body that was about to sit down suddenly paused. Why are today's dishes so bland? If it were before, this kind of taste would absolutely not appear on the dining table at home. Even if there was an oversight, I would immediately go to the kitchen, cook a few spicy dishes for her. But now I didn't even move my chopsticks, just coldly opened my mouth. I haven't had much appetite lately. Just want to eat some light food. After saying that, I picked up my chopsticks, quietly eating by myself, as if suddenly remembering something. I looked up at the person in front of me, Lu Yuchen has prepared food already. Why don't you go there to eat? The woman was stunned, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. I don't you always dislike me associating with him? A trace of mockery flashed through my heart, so she always knew that I didn't like her and Lu Yuchen associating, yet she always left me to go to him. I raised my head with a slight smile. Don't you always say you just see him as a little brother, telling me to be more generous? Now, I'm gradually learning to be generous. When Huaixin living another life, I will be as she wishes, generous to let her go there for dinner, generous to let her and Lu Yuchen be alone, finally generous to give her to him. My voice was very gentle, also very generous, just as she had hoped for many years. But inexplicably, when Huaixin felt somewhat uncomfortable, but under my firm persuasion, she finally went. I watched as the woman put her coat back on and walked out the door, finally turning to the living room window, looking toward Lu Yuchen's house. Seeing the lights turn on there, I stood up, told the housekeeper to clear the dishes, conveniently locking the door. Finally, all the lights in the Wen household went out one by one. On the other side, seeing Wen Huaixin arrive as expected, Lu Yuchen's eyes lit up, hurriedly running out to greet her, while attentively asking about her, while taking the coat she took off, looking at the table full of spicy dishes, all the dishes the woman liked. She suddenly felt something was wrong. She wanted to open her mouth to ask something, but was blocked by each of Lu Yuchen's words. This dinner lasted longer than before. When she stood up, returning to the Wen house under the man's lingering gaze, only to discover her house had already turned off the lights. She frowned, raised her hand to knock, called my name several times, but there was still silence behind the door. She then tried pushing the door, only to discover it was locked from the inside. What's going on? She pushed forcefully several times, knocked again for a while, still no movement inside. Finally had to return to Lu Yuchen's house, explaining her awkward situation. Hearing that I'd even locked the door, Lu Yuchen's heart pounded. He tried to suppress the corners of his mouth from curling up, his face showing concern. It's all right, Sister Huaixin. Since that's the case, tonight you can stay at my place. When Huaixin massaged her temple, her tone cold. Sorry to trouble you tonight. Ill sleep in the living room. Won't go anywhere else. Early the next morning, as soon as I opened the door, I saw the woman sitting on the sofa downstairs. Her coat still had a few drops of dew. Must have just returned not long ago. I calmly walked down. Hearing the sound, the woman looked up at me. Why did you lock the door last night? I sat down at the dining table. While drinking the porridge in my bowl, I casually said, there have been many thieves recently. I am used to locking the door. Forgot that you went to Lu Yuchen's. Sorry. Hearing this, Wen Huaixin didn't think more about it. Took out a ticket from her pocket that the security personnel had helped purchase. Placed it in front of me. I've been busy with many things lately. Haven't had time to be with you for a long time. After I finish my work, have someone pick you up. Let's go see a movie this afternoon. Okay? I nodded, but didn't take the ticket on the table. After finishing breakfast, the woman changed into another set of clothes, then left, hearing the sound of the car outside gradually fading. I put down my bowl and chopsticks. My eyes fell on the movie ticket on the table. In our previous life, they were married for 5 years. She had never watched a complete movie with me. Each time was because of Lu Yuchen's matters that we left halfway. This time, I no longer had any mood to go watch with her. This ticket couldn't be wasted. Thinking this, I took the ticket to Lu Yuchen's house. Looking at the man in front of me who couldn't hide his smug expression, I calmly said, now, can you believe what I said last night? Lu Yuchen was still half believing, half doubting. But after tasting a bit of sweetness last night, although he didn't know my true purpose, he absolutely wouldn't miss this opportunity. So he nodded, gave me a sum of money. I slightly curled my lips, put away the money, then took out another ticket from my pocket and gave it to him. This is the movie ticket for this afternoon. Go with her. Dress neatly. Best if you can move her heart today. After saying that, I immediately turned and left. That afternoon, I didn't go as promised. Instead, stayed home taking a nap, then watered the plants, quite leisurely and comfortable, until night fell. I was just about to fold the newspaper on my lap, preparing to go upstairs to rest. The woman walked in. Between her brows, there was some unhappiness. Why didn't you come to the movie today? My hand paused on the newspaper. I wasn't feeling well today. Hearing this, when Huaixin raised her hand to feel my forehead. Do you need to go to the hospital for a checkup? I shook my head. No need. Just then, a piercing phone ring broke the silence. I was about to stand up. Wen Huaixin had already quickly picked up the receiver, because the distance was very close. The voice on the other end clearly reached my ears. When I heard the foreword, marriage registration office, I reflexively tightened my grip on the newspaper in my hand, holding my breath waiting. Who knows how long it took. The woman hung up, turned to look at me. The marriage registration office called, said some documents are still missing, but didn't specify what. Why did you suddenly go to the marriage registration office? I finally breathed a sigh of relief. We got married in a hurry before. They might be missing some paperwork. I'll go complete it myself when I have time. Fortunately, Wen Huaixin replied softly, not thinking more about it, then turned and left. After washing her face, she remembered something, took out an invitation card from her pocket. Oh right, old Zhang from the other unit is having a birthday. Come with me then, okay? I couldn't refuse that, had to nod. On the day of the birthday party, many handsome men and beautiful women were dancing to the melodious accordion music. Wen Huaixin originally intended to invite me to dance, but I shook my head. I am still not feeling well. Why don't you dance with Lu Yuchen? He came alone, must be quite lonely. The music started again. Seeing my resolute refusal, Wen Huaixin could only walk towards Lu Yuchen, taking his hand. Lu Yuchen smiled, but Wen Huaixin maintained a cold expression. The two were completely opposite, hand in hand gently spinning to the rhythm. People around started whispering quietly. If I remember correctly, Huaixin is already married, right? Why is she dancing with another man now? That's too much. And that Lu Yuchen clearly knows when Huaixin is married, yet he still dances with her. How can he smile like that? Truly shameless. Not far away. As the official husband, I calmly watched, saying nothing but my thoughts drifted far away. In my previous life, every time I was about to start dancing with her, Lu Yuchen would cut in, and each time she would choose Lu Yuchen. I almost memorized that line of hers. Lu Yuchen is lonely with no one to rely on. I need to take care of him, be a little more generous. Now I am doing exactly what she wished for. Why does she look unwilling? At the birthday party, with so many people, they started drinking. On this happy day, even Wen Huaixin, who normally wouldn't drink a drop, was no exception. One glass of white liquor after another. Even the toughest person would become unsteady. Wen Huaixin was drunk, her slender finger pressed against her forehead, her mouth still calling my name, but I didn't step forward to help her. As before, instead, with just a glance, Lu Yuchen immediately ran over with a radiant smile, supporting Wen Huaixin. Sister Huaixin, let me help you. We all got into one car. I considerately sat in the front passenger seat, leaving the back space for the two of them. Lu Yuchen hurriedly helped Wen Huaixin into the car. Although Wen Huaixin was dizzy from drinking, she still realized something was wrong. Perhaps it wasn't her illusion. I really had changed these days, but this change suddenly made her feel panic. She was about to open her mouth. Boom. A loud noise immediately sobered her. Turned out, the car broke down in the middle of the road. Almost got into an accident. Wen Huaixin sobered up immediately, instinctively checking the injuries of the man beside her. Seeing Lu Yuchen was fine, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. But the moment she looked up, her eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. She moved her lips, wanting to say something, but I had already turned my gaze away. The sky gradually darkened. The rain grew heavier. Several people stood by the road with umbrellas, wanting to catch a ride with someone else. The cold wind was fierce, making me shiver. Wen Huaixin saw this, immediately took her coat intending to put it on me. But on the other side, Lu Yuchen continuously sneezed several times. The coat extended stopped in midair. Seeing her hesitation, I smiled mockingly, generously saying, Lu Yuchen seems to need it more than I do. You should put it on him first. I am fine. The coat carrying the woman's warmth finally draped over Lu Yuchen, making his ears slightly red. Just then, a car horn sounded from across the street. Old Zhang lowered the car window, looking at the few people standing by the road, concernedly asking what happened. I hurriedly told everyone to get in the car, but ironically, there were only 2 seats left in the car. This time, Wen Huaixin didn't hesitate, letting me and Lu Yuchen get in the car first. But Lu Yuchen pulled her sleeve. Sister Huaixin, come with me please. I am afraid. Afraid? What's there to be afraid of in a car? He really couldn't even come up with a good excuse. I inwardly complained, but outwardly showed contempt, directly looking at Wen Huaixin, waving my hand saying, since that's the case, you take him first. After all, you've been drinking. Can't let you get soaked in the rain. Without waiting for Wen Huaixin to speak, I directly pushed the two into the car. Watching the car drive away, I withdrew my gaze, quickly hailed another car, but not heading home. Instead to the marriage registration office. On the next morning as soon as I pushed the door open, a figure hurriedly walked over. Looking up, my eyes immediately met Wen Huaixin's worried gaze. Why didn't you come home last night? I casually said. It rained too hard last night. I went to a friend's house for the night. Actually, I went to the marriage registration office to complete the paperwork. It took quite a lot of time. By the time I finished, it was too late. No more transportation available. I had to find a small inn to stay for the night. The woman looked me up and down, confirming I was fine, then breathed a sigh of relief, stepped aside to let me in. Mom and Dad are here. My hand paused while taking off my coat, looking up toward the living room. Immediately saw 2 people sitting there, hearing the noise. Wen's parents also turned around. After a few greetings, Mother Wen took my hand, led me to sit on the sofa. While walking, asked about my health recently. Since the two got married, Wen's parents often visited, not out of concern, nor to lecture, but to urge us to have children. But children aren't something you can just have on command. I raised my head to look at the woman beside me. Her face showed no fluctuation, just silently looking at me. In her eyes flickered a hint of expectation. She also wanted children. If it were my previous life, I naturally would have wanted to have children with her too. Children who would resemble both of us. But after reincarnating, I no longer had such thoughts. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Mother Wen looked at her daughter. Do you two plan to have children? She was slightly startled, looking at me who was lowering my head in silence, thinking I was just being shy, smiled slightly and nodded. Of course we want to, Mom. It's just that having children can't be rushed. We have to let nature take its course. Seeing the two of us not objecting, Wen's parents exchanged glances, already having something in mind. At dinner time, Mother Wen specially brought out a well-simmered soup, smiled brightly as she ladled a bowl for each of us. Under her expectant gaze, I had to lift the bowl and drink it all. After dinner, Wen's parents didn't stay long, waving goodbye and driving away. After they left, Wen Huaixin and I returned to the bedroom to rest, but not long after lying down, a burning sensation spread from my heart throughout my body. I just felt the room getting more and more suffocating. Unconsciously loosening my collar, looking up, I saw the woman's face flushed red, uncomfortably pulling at her collar. The moment our eyes met, both thought of her parents urging us to have children. That soup was problematic. I was about to stand up. The person beside me was faster, leaning down to kiss me, pressing me down underneath. Jusime. Her voice was hoarse. It's been a while since you've contributed to our fund. She raised her hand to lift my face, her breath quickening. Kisses. Falling. Sometimes gentle, sometimes forceful. The rain outside grew heavier. Through the glass, the rushing sound was still clearly audible. Water streaks on the window, from small droplets turning into blurry flowing streams. In the dim room, only a weak lamp glowed, faintly illuminating 2 figures entwined together. Just as the woman's hand touched my belt, I suddenly pushed her away, perhaps not expecting me to reject her. Wen Huaixin was stunned, recalling my coldness towards her recently. Her voice trembled slightly. What's wrong? I squeezed my palm tightly, sitting up straight. Nothing. You go shower first. Both of us were somewhat overly clean, so hearing me say that, she didn't suspect anything, trying to suppress the fire within her. Standing up and walking toward the bathroom, when Wen Huaixin had gone inside, I quickly grabbed the glass of water beside me and gulped it down, then turned to climb out the window, secretly knocking on Lu Yuchen's window. Hurry to her room. She's been drugged. This is the best opportunity. You only get one chance. Having said that, I didn't look at Lu Yuchen's reaction anymore. On the other side, when Huaixin finished showering, while drying her hair, pushed open the bathroom door and walked out. The dim lamp had already been turned off, could only vaguely see. On the bed was a figure lying down. She didn't suspect anything. Stepped forward, leaned down to embrace him. She pulled the man's arm, fingers intertwined tightly, broken kisses falling continuously, the movements of her hands growing bolder. When she kissed the man's neck, a soft moan escaped, as if awakening from a dream. She jerked up, turned to the side and turned on the light. Dazzling light illuminated the entire room. The woman's heart pounded, pupils contracted. Why is it you? Lu Yuchen hadn't reacted yet either. Unexpected to be discovered, his face changed. Stammering, unable to form words. Sister Huaixin. But the very next second, a cry of pain burst from the woman's mouth. He watched helplessly as Wen Huaixin collapsed. I withdrew the stick, frowned at Lu Yuchen. Why aren't you leaving? Only then did he come to his senses, hurriedly grabbing the coat beside him, fleeing in panic. Early morning, Wen Huaixin walked down the stairs while massaging her neck. Between her brows was full of doubt. What happened last night? How did Lu Yuchen come to my room? I finished the last spoonful of porridge, instead asking, who? After Your shower last night, you fell asleep. Who could come to your room? The woman felt something was wrong, but she couldn't remember clearly what happened last night. I didn't ask further either. Anyway, I couldn't let Lu Yuchen run into their room in the middle of the night, but she didn't know. Everything was arranged by me. I was step by step, pushing her toward Lu Yuchen. Then when Huaishen's work became extremely busy, for the time being, I couldn't find an opportunity to arrange for them to meet until when Huaishen unexpectedly received a notice, had to be transferred to Hainan, but could only bring one family member. She held the letter in her hand, momentarily hesitating. If it were before, she would definitely not hesitate to take me along. But now there was also Lu Yuchen. Thinking of his sister's dying request, asking her to take good care of Lu Yuchen, the paper in her hand was crumpled again. Finally, she returned home, struggling to tell me, Gusim, I've been transferred to Hainan. As compensation, the organization will arrange a job at the TV station for someone to go with me. But I can only bring one person. Her voice grew increasingly quiet, but I already understood what she was about to say. Sure enough, the next second, the woman's voice continued to reach my ears. Lu Yuchen just lost a family member, and has a loan with no one to take care of him. So I think I should take him first. Can you give up that job for him? When I'm settled in Hainan, I'll definitely come back for you. This was exactly the same scene as in my previous life. At first I didn't agree. Clearly, I was her husband. I was her family. Why should I give up the opportunity to an outsider, even if that outsider's sister once saved her? She had many other ways to repay the debt. Why did she have to use my future to repay it? Because of this, I argued with her for a long time, but then she still took Lu Yuchen to Hainan, leaving me alone here, waiting for years. So, lonely with no one to rely on, I became the easiest target for bullying, and Lu Yuchen continued to stab me, occasionally sending letters, which not only described in detail how Wen Huaishen had taken care of him, but even included several photos, him with his arm around Wen Huaishen at the movies, intimate. Those years I cried until I had no more tears for a lifetime. Now it was exactly like my previous life, faced with the same choice. She still chose Lu Yuchen. I looked up at the woman in front of me. Her words were all calculated for another man, never thinking about my feelings, never thinking about my future. But this time, I didn't argue, nor did I make a fuss, just quietly looked at her. Fine. I agree. Perhaps because I agreed too quickly. Wen Huaishen couldn't react for a moment. The surprise in her eyes couldn't be hidden. She looked at me carefully, hoping to find a hint of deception in the man's eyes, but just realized, somehow, at some point, I had become like a different person. In my eyes and words, she was no longer there. Whatever she did, I showed indifference. An inexplicable discomfort spread from her chest. You agree so easily? I raised my head to look at the woman in front of me. What else then? Don't you want me to agree? If I make a fuss and disagree, would you agree? A question that made Wen Huaishen speechless. The answer was clearly no, because as soon as she received the transfer order, she had already decided she had to take Lu Yuchen. Nothing could stop her, so she could only guiltily take my hand. Ju Sim, you've suffered. I'll make it up to you bit by bit later. I remained calm, inwardly laughing coldly. What later do we have? Because the transfer order came suddenly. The people in the staff quarters specially organized a farewell party for Wen Huaishen. During the party, I sat quietly in the corner, watching Wen Huaishen and Lu Yuchen surrounded by the crowd. White liquor glasses followed one after another, making the woman's eyes increasingly hazy, the man's face increasingly flushed. More and more people came to toast them. Lu Yuchen couldn't handle it and leaned toward Wen Huaishen. Perhaps noticing my gaze, she hurriedly pushed Lu Yuchen away, then told the security guard beside her to help him to a sofa on the side. Just as Wen Huaishen was about to walk toward me, a sudden crack appeared from the base of the wall up to the ceiling, accompanied by a rumbling sound, as if the ground was roaring. The building shook, making creaking sounds. Cracks appeared all over the wall, like it could collapse at any moment. In the dizzying sensation and intense fear, everyone immediately turned pale. Earthquake. The scene became chaotic in an instant. Screams and cries echoed everywhere. The woman who was about to come toward me also quickened her pace, but the next second, Lu Yuchen's call sounded from behind her. Huaishen's sister. The woman's footsteps immediately halted, and in that moment of hesitation, the entire building collapsed. Countless people buried under the rubble. Who knows how long it was. I opened my eyes again, but discovered my entire body was completely pinned down by falling beams. In the pitch-black darkness, apart from the faint crying sounds, only the sound of my heart beating remained. I wanted to open my mouth to call for help, but found myself too frightened to make any sound. Who knows how long it had been. Suddenly, the sound of electric drills came from above, followed by the shouts of rescue workers. Found someone. The debris on top was excavated. The dazzling light made me involuntarily close my eyes tightly, but when I clearly saw the rescue workers under the rubble, they became hesitant, besides me being trapped. On the other side, Lu Yuchen was also trapped. Sister Huaishen, both your husband and Lu Yuchen are trapped down here. The current situation is critical. We don't know when aftershocks will come. Who should we rescue first? Wen Huaishen looked at me trapped with a pale face. Her heart suddenly tightened. Of course, rescue. Just as she was about to speak, Lu Yuchen, who had just regained consciousness, collapsed, crying out, Sister Huaishen, please rescue me first. I am so scared. Sister Huaishen, don't leave me. Just at this moment, an aftershock suddenly arrived. The violent shaking buried us even deeper. We need to decide quickly. If we hesitate any longer, neither of them can be saved. Sister Huaishen, you once promised my sister that you would take good care of me. Hearing this desperate cry, Wen Huaishen's eyes filled with gravity. Without hesitation, she spoke. Rescue Lu Yuchen first. Hearing her choice, everyone showed shock. No one expected her to abandon her husband to save an outsider. Even I widened my eyes, looking at her in disbelief. Before, she had already repeatedly abandoned me for Lu Yuchen, but now it was a life or death situation. She still had to abandon me? With a trembling voice, I opened my mouth. Wen Huaishen. But before I could finish, my words were drowned out by Lu Yuchen's louder cries. Sister Huaishen, it hurts so much. It hurts so much. Save me. Wen Huaishen no longer hesitated, immediately directed the rescue team. Rescue Lu Yuchen first. The cold saw. Blades cut through the layers of debris. Dust, soil, and stone fragments splattered everywhere. The air filled with the suffocating smell of dust due to the violent shaking. Handful after handful of dirt poured toward me. Just then, aftershocks struck again. My body trembled uncontrollably, instinctively wanting to escape, but completely unable to move. And at this moment, when Huaishen had already gritted her teeth and finished sawing through the last wooden board, pulling Lu Yuchen out with a boom sound, the rubble suddenly collapsed. Half of my body had just emerged, only to be buried again in the darkness. In the final moment before losing consciousness, the woman's horrified face was imprinted deeply in my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, my whole body was in pain and I couldn't move. I struggled to open my eyes, seeing a white ceiling. Yu-Sim, you're awake. A joyful exclamation sounded beside me. I turned my head to look, saw Wen Huixin with bloodshot eyes. Clearly, she had been watching over me for several nights, but now when I looked at her, what I thought of was during the earthquake. She had abandoned me to save Lu Yuchen. I turned my head away, closed my eyes. The hospital room fell into silence again. Wen Huixin saw me like this, clenched her fists, then released them, knowing that now, no matter what she said, I wouldn't listen anymore. She pressed her lips together for a long time, finally said softly, "You just rest well. I'll go see how Lu Yuchen is doing." The door of the ward closed once more. A tear fell and wet the pillow, but I quickly wiped it away in the days that followed. Wen Huixin went back and forth between us, perhaps out of guilt. Most of the time she stayed with me. My heart had grown cold, no longer caring where she went. On the contrary, Lu Yuchen in the next ward couldn't sit still. Today, while Wen Huixin wasn't here, he angrily rushed over. "What do you mean by this? Didn't you say you would leave her? To give us time alone? Why is she now clinging to you and not letting go? Are you deliberately teasing me?" I looked at the dissatisfied man in front of me, silent for a long time, and then took out the divorce paper I had just received from my pocket. I've long stopped liking her. I am not deliberately teasing you. I've already filed for divorce. Lu Yuchen was shocked, widened his eyes. He always thought I was just saying it. Didn't expect me to be so decisive, even already holding the divorce papers, before I could open my mouth. The hospital room door was pushed open again. Wen Huixin saw the divorce paper in my hand. "What are you holding?" Wen Huixin rushed forward to get a closer look. Lu Yuchen immediately stood up, blocking in front of her. "Sister Huixin, where did you just go?" "I just happen to have something to discuss with you." Lu Yuchen spoke while pulling her sleeve to go outside. Watching the hospital room door close once more, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. On the day of discharge, I received the final sum of money from Lu Yuchen, although I don't know why you suddenly demanded a divorce. But I hope you keep your word. Permanently withdraw from our world. I took all the money that I had obtained from Lu Yuchen over this period, finished depositing it, and began packing my belongings at home. When Wen Huixin returned, she was stunned by the clothes spread all over the room. "Why did you take out all these clothes?" I didn't look at her, just bent down to organize the clothes on the floor, while calmly saying, "The season has changed." So I took them out to organize a bit. Looking at my head-down motion of sorting clothes, her hand on the doorknob tightened. For some unknown reason, a sense of panic welled up in her heart. Thinking of my unusual behavior lately, she quickly walked over, grabbed my hand. "Don't pack anymore, and Hanan will buy you new clothes." I frowned, for a moment not understanding her words. The woman gripped my hand tightly, with a hint of panic in her voice. This time, I requested from the organization. The organization agreed to let me bring 2 people, so I can bring both Lu Yuchen and you to Hanan. But there's still only one job at the TV station, for Lu Yuchen. Okay? I know you're angry with me. Angry that during the earthquake I didn't choose to save you, but I had no other choice. I promised his sister to take good care of him. I couldn't break that promise. Can you stop being angry? Hearing this, I calmly looked at her without saying a word, inwardly full of mockery. She thinks I am just angry? But what right do I have to be angry? In my previous life it was also this earthquake. The only difference was that time I wasn't trapped alongside Lu Yuchen, but she still chose to rescue Lu Yuchen first, until she had cared for Lu Yuchen in the hospital for half a month. Only then remembered to call and check on me. Right before that, Lu Yuchen's friends had deliberately come to provoke me, saying Lu Yuchen's hand was injured. How Wen Huixin had taken care of him, even staying up all night to care for him, staying by his side without leaving. Countless feelings of grievance welled up in my heart. Clearly, I was also covered in injuries, yet my wife was beside, a man who was only slightly injured, gently and patiently comforting him. While from the time I was admitted to surgery, then discharge, from beginning to end I was alone. The grievance gradually turned into anger and resentment. On the phone I had a big argument with her, venting all my resentment and grievances, but the woman on the other end didn't say a word, until I had vented all my anger. She reluctantly said, "I've told you there's nothing between Lu Yuchen and me. If you want to think otherwise, I can't do anything about it." Coldness spread from my spine throughout my body. I couldn't hear clearly what she said after that. I just know that not long after I was discharged from the hospital, she had already taken Lu Yuchen to Hanan. Now I no longer cared about anything, showing unprecedented generosity and calmness. She, on the contrary, requested the organization to take me along. A trace of mockery appeared in my eyes, but I quickly concealed it. Yet that didn't escape Wen Huixin's gaze. Her heart grew more panicked, as if about to lose something. She suddenly hugged me tightly. "Yu-Sim, can we go together?" I knew I couldn't refuse. If I refused, she would certainly become suspicious. After all, in her eyes, I was someone who couldn't live without her. So I softly said, "All right, let's go together." Hearing my answer, Wen Huixin immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Therefore, she didn't hear what I said afterward. Together but not to the same destination. "Wen Huixin, you and I have long gone separate ways." On the day of departure, seeing me walking behind, the smile on Lu Yuchen's face instantly disappeared. But I didn't even glance at him, just picked up my suitcase onto the car. Throughout the journey, Lu Yuchen was still up to his usual tricks, either saying he had sprained his ankle, wanting Wen Huixin to help him onto the train, or on the train saying he was a bit cold, wanting to sit closer to Wen Huixin, or saying he was a bit sleepy, wanting to rest his head on her lap. Wen Huixin originally wanted to refuse. Each time she would look toward me sitting opposite, but I'd long closed my eyes. Finally she couldn't bear it, had to meet Lu Yuchen's requests one by one. Her attentiveness made people around couldn't help but praise. "This young man is clearly lucky. Married such a considerate wife." A comment that made Lu Yuchen's face flush red, continuously wanting to snuggle against Wen Huixin, but she moved away, her face cold. "You misunderstood. He and I don't have that kind of relationship." Her explanation made Lu Yuchen freeze, but the passenger beside thought she was just being shy. "Young lady, what's there to be shy about? If you like him, pursue him. Yet saying you don't have that kind of relationship. Why be so intimate then?" Hearing this, Wen Huixin immediately stood up and sat next to me. "This is my husband. He is just my friend." The passenger's eyes went back and forth between the three of us, finally swallowing back his words. Turning to look at the scenery outside the window, Lu Yuchen bit his lip, reluctantly looking at the man in front who was resting with his eyes closed. The train swayed forward. I frowned and opened my eyes, bumping into the suitcase beside me. The cry of pain made Wen Huixin beside me wake up. Wen Huixin hurriedly reached out to touch my forehead. While rubbing, she looked at the suitcase beside me. Couldn't help but wonder, "Why did you put the suitcase here?" "Let me put it on the luggage rack for you." But I held onto the suitcase firmly. "No need, this is more convenient." Seeing the clear refusal on my face, she didn't say anything more. When the train stopped, Wen Huixin stood up to go to the bathroom. Sitting across, Lu Yuchen was uncomfortable, looking at me opposite. "What do You mean by this? Didn't you say you don't like Wen Huaixin anymore? Why are you following us here now? I remained calm. Rest assured, I will do as I said. Lu Yuchen frowned, just about to ask what I meant, when a sudden commotion erupted from the end of the carriage. Catch the thief? Don't let him escape. Both of us turned our heads to look in that direction, only to see a fierce-looking man rushing toward us with a knife. He was panicking, trying to grab a hostage, and the people closest to him were me and Lu Yuchen. When Huaixin saw this, her face darkened. Like lightning, she rushed toward the thief, but the thief had already charged with his knife between the two people. In the emergency, she could only protect one person, immediately reaching out, pulling the pale-faced Lu Yuchen into her arms. The next second when she tried to pull me, she was already a step too late. The thief had grabbed me. In his panic, he swung his knife and slashed at me forcefully. The train carriage was in chaos again. Wen Huaixin immediately kicked the thief. The train police also arrived in time, pinning the thief to the ground. Passengers nearby hurriedly tore clothes, helping me stop the bleeding. Wen Huaixin rushed over in panic, just about to say something. It got stuck in her throat. My left arm was bleeding non-stop, but my eyes were calm to the point of coldness. All night long, the two sat in the same row, separated by the aisle. She was bandaging my wound, while apologizing. I am sorry, Gusaim. Just now, you know, no need to say more. Wen Huaixin looked up, her eyes full of guilt, seeing I didn't want to hear it. Finally, she could only let out a sigh. When we get to Hainan, can we live well together? Whatever you want, I'll buy it for you. I just closed my eyes tiredly, not saying a word. Seeing I was tired, Wen Huaixin didn't speak further either, just gently covered me with a thin blanket. The quiet night, seeing the entire carriage was sound asleep. I slowly opened my eyes. I lifted the suitcase placed by my feet, then slipped the divorce paper into Wen Huaixin's hand as she slept deeply beside me, looking at the sleeping face before me. For a moment I was slightly dazed. This face I had looked at countless times when the proposal was successful. That face was filled with joy, even cried like a child. On our wedding night, that face was flushed red and sweating from pain. When arguing about Lu Yuchen, that face showed coldness and helplessness, her voice also full of blame. Each memory flashed through my head. This face I had looked at for 5 years, also loved for 5 years. From now on, I would never see it again. The announcement of the train arriving at the station sounded. The woman stirred slightly, but didn't open her eyes. I didn't look back either. Picked up my luggage and got off the train. The luggage wheels rolling on the gravel path made a clattering sound. I slowly walked away, in the opposite direction from the train, not looking back, when the train attendant with a megaphone repeatedly reminded passengers who were still sleeping, "We've arrived at Hainan." Wen Huaixin rubbed her eyes. The next second, something fell from her hand. She instinctively bent down to pick it up, but when she clearly saw what it was, she was completely awake. Divorce papers. Her mind went blank. She wanted to pick up the divorce papers from the ground, but her hands trembled violently. It took several attempts before she could hold them. When she opened them, her solo photo was clearly visible inside. She sat up straight, looking toward where I had been sitting, finding the empty seat with no one there. Even my luggage was gone. The woman immediately panicked, calling my name everywhere, but apart from the puzzled passengers looking at her, no one else looked her way. She had no time to think of anything else, hurriedly got off at the station, searching for my figure everywhere, but it was in vain. An inexplicable anger rose from her chest. Wen Huaixin clutched the divorce papers in her hand, as if wanting to tear them apart. She knew, to quietly divorce, one could only apply for a mandatory divorce, and this type of divorce required filing an application 1 month in advance at the marriage registration office. In other words, 1 month ago, I had already prepared to divorce her, but what had she done wrong? I didn't tell her anything, already wanted a divorce. Wen Huaixin looked up, looking at the empty station. A hint of confusion appeared in her eyes. At this moment, Lu Yuchen stepped down from the train. When he saw the divorce papers in her hand, a trace of joy flashed through his eyes. He immediately put his arm around her, his voice no longer hiding anything. "Are these divorce papers? Sister Huaixin, now that Gusaim has divorced you, so we," his face flushed red, but when Huaixin pushed him away, her serious eyes looking at him, in her eyes there was no longer the care as before. Even her way of addressing him changed from Yuchen to Comrade WL. "Comrade LU, the mission of taking care of you ends here." The man immediately froze in place, only feeling a coldness from head to toe. "What did you call me?" If it were before, Wen Huaixin would certainly step forward to comfort him, but now she just looked at him coldly. "Comrade LU, you know, I took care of you entirely because of your sisters. Last wish. Now I've fulfilled her wish. Brought you to Hainan. Also found you a stable job. From now on, you and I have no relationship." Her words grew increasingly cold. Tears the man couldn't hold back flowed out, not because of reluctance, but fear. He had worked so hard to maneuver himself to the side of such a powerful person. How could he easily let go? He rushed forward, tightly hugging the woman's back. "I don't want to leave you. Wen Huaixin, you agreed to my sister's will, so you must take care of me till the end. Why are you abandoning me like this?" The woman pushed him forcefully away from her embrace. "Lu Yuchen, don't be too greedy as a person. You dare say that after caring for me for so many years, you never had any feelings in your heart? You truly can bear to let me leave?" The man's memory was actually very good. He clearly remembered the day his sister passed away, how she had gently embraced and comforted him, how she had embraced him at the dance, how she had protected him during the car accident. All those scenes during the earthquake. On the train, her eyes might deceive others, but couldn't deceive him. How could she not like him? The woman clutched the divorce papers tightly in her hand. The corner of the paper rubbed painfully against her hand, but it made her more clear-headed. That wasn't liking. It was just responsibility. If you were injured even a little, how could I face your sister afterward? Lu Yuchen kept shaking his head, tears flowing more heavily. "You don't like me? Then why were you so good to me? Clearly each time, you could have let others take care of me. Why did you insist on doing it yourself?" As if thinking of something, he looked at Wen Huaixin. "It's too late for you to escape from me. You've already been my woman, like a thunderbolt from a clear sky." Wen Huaixin first looked at him in shock. Finally, anger blazed in her eyes. "I am your woman?" he said word by word, also step by step approaching her. Lu Yuchen bit his lip hard, his hands behind his back trembling non-stop, but still frankly accepted her anger. "That night, when you drank the soup, it was I who carried you to bed. Of course, afterward he was knocked unconscious." The woman's footsteps halted in place. She also remembered that night, also remembered me. The casual excuses. How could there be someone who would deliver his own wife to another man's bed? The flame of betrayal from head to toe. But before she could open her mouth, the guard standing at the greeting door ran over. "The commander-in-chief invites you." The woman suppressed her anger, not even looking at him, ordered, "Take him home first. As for the job at the TV station, cancel it first." After the people left, Lu Yuchen finally breathed a sigh of relief, collapsing onto the ground, looking down at the stone under his feet. He knew he was temporarily kept, but what about in the future? The more he thought, the more dissatisfied and resentful he felt. It was all because of Gu Saim. If he hadn't left so suddenly, I wouldn't be in this situation. In an office, Commander Li Yu looked at the woman in front of him and asked with concern, thinking of her married status. He added a sentence, and little du, he just arrived in Hainan. Might not be used to it yet, take good care of him. Wen Huaixin opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. After all, being an experienced person, looking at her expression, Commander Li Yu smiled knowingly. What? Had another argument with him? Not an argument, we're divorced. The smile on the other person's face instantly disappeared. After hearing the reason for our divorce, his voice was full of reproach. What's wrong with you? Clearly on the battlefield you can distinguish priorities. Why are you so confused when it comes to emotional matters? Lu Yuchen's sister once saved your life. You should fulfill her last wish. But many things could be done by others. Why didn't she think of that? Commander Li Yu didn't want to say more. Waved his hand for her to leave first. On the way home, the guard reported today's events regarding Gu Saim. We have also investigated, but we only found out he had gone toward Chaosu province, which specific direction is unclear. Information isn't well developed yet. Trying to find him among the sea of people is like searching for a needle in the ocean. The woman's face grew increasingly somber, finally closed her eyes tiredly. The car became quiet again, just as she arrived at her new home. A piercing cry sounded from inside the door. Fortunately, the current residence wasn't like the military quarters before. Neighbors were far apart. Now even if Lu Yuchen cried loudly, no neighbors would come running to peek. She frowned as she entered the living room, only to see Lu Yuchen clutching the sofa tightly. Seeing her walk in, he jumped up, wanting to hug her. But she moved aside to avoid him. I've already said everything that needed to be said. Now please leave. The man's tears kept falling. I won't leave. Wen Huaixin, if you truly don't like me, then you shouldn't have treated me so well, even abandoning your husband many times to come to me. But now my whole heart is placed on you. What do you want me to do? We've been together for so long. My reputation has also been ruined by you. You must take responsibility for me. Now he no longer had the caution as before, just staring at her intently. That gaze was like opium, making one couldn't help but shudder. When I helped you before, it was in front of everyone. Said it was taking care of a soldier's relative. All these years I feel I've done nothing to be ashamed of, yet you still want to cause trouble. Finally, Lu Yuchen stopped crying, for the first time looking seriously at the person in front of him. Cold ruthlessness was the common style of soldiers like her. I can give you a sum of money, so you can live in Hainan. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. Having said that, she no longer looked at the man sitting on the ground, closing the door. A soft sigh escaped from the man's throat. On the other side, I looked at the unfamiliar scene before me. A hint of confusion flashed through my eyes. After getting off the train, I randomly boarded another train. Unexpectedly, it took me to Jiangnan. Rain began to fall lightly. I hurriedly raised my hand to cover my head, unconsciously leaned against the wooden door in front of me. But when backing up, I accidentally bumped into someone. Sorry, I instinctively turned around, but immediately became immersed in the person's deep eyes. A slight smile appeared on the woman's face. It's all right. Come in here to shelter from the rain. The fragrance of tea spread by the window. I changed into dry clothes and sat in front of Su Yue, carefully taking the hot cup of tea she offered. Thank you. Su Yue smiled slightly. Then, as if remembering something, did you come to Jiangnan alone? I nodded slightly. I no longer wanted to mention past events. After all, those memories for me were truly not very pleasant. The person in front of me was perceptive and didn't ask further, just asked what I planned to do next. Although Lu Yuchen had given me over 5,000 yuan, but that money would eventually run out. I had to find a job to support myself. But I had been married to Wen Huaixin for 5 years. My previous skills had become rusty. What could I do now? Su Yue clearly saw the confusion in my eyes. She lightly tapped her finger on the table, as if thinking of something. A friend of mine happens to want to transfer a small tailor shop. If you don't mind, after the rain stops you could go take a look. The confusion in my eyes immediately turned to joy. After the rain stopped, Su Yue closed her shop, led me onto a path paved with green stones. While walking, introduced me to the customs of this small town. Though the town was small, the people here were all very kind. Along the street were many shops, but tailor shops were rare. That friend was also reluctant to leave the store, but his family was all in Hainan. He couldn't abandon them. Had to grit his teeth and transfer the business. Mentioning Hainan, I suddenly remembered Wen Huaixin and Lu Yuchen. Counting the time, they should have arrived by now. Now without me between them, their relationship should progress smoothly. But whatever happened no longer concerned me. After walking for a few minutes, a two-story house appeared before me. After the introduction by Su Yui's friend, I also understood roughly about this house. The first floor could be opened as a tailor shop. As for the supply sources, that friend had recorded all of them in a book. At that time, they could be handed over to me directly. The house was a bit small, just enough space for a bed and a few tables, but the backyard was quite spacious. Besides the kitchen and basic amenities, there was also an empty plot of land where vegetables and flowers could be planted. The two people talked very well together. With Su Yui's support, this tailor shop was quickly agreed upon at a satisfactory price, and I bought it. To the following week, I also became busy, both processing the house transfer and relearning the tailoring craft. In less than a month, I had learned quite a bit. Not only made a new set of clothes for myself, but also to specially thank Su Yue, I made a new set for her too. Looking at the clothes I handed over, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. A gift for me? I nodded shyly. After taking care of everything in the shop, my savings weren't much left, just wanting to show my sincere gratitude. So I decided to make her a new outfit. I like it very much, thank you. I breathed a sigh of relief. As long as you don't mind, that's good. The tailor shop had just opened. Neighbors around had an observant attitude. After all, I was a new tailor. If my skills weren't good, when they wore the clothes outside, they would be laughed at. But after just a few days, the small tailor shop was packed with people because I wasn't just skilled, but the styles of clothes I made were also fresh enough. Most importantly, I was sweet-tongued, making everyone unconsciously feel goodwill toward me. It was another late afternoon. After seeing off the last customer, I was about to close the door, when suddenly I heard a loud shout from the front. I turned my head, only to see a woman throw the clothes in her hand to the ground. Everyone come see this. It's this tailor shop. I spent so much money. Asked them to make me a new dress. The result is the fabric is terrible. It's already damaged before wearing it. It was after dinner time. Everyone was out for a stroll. Hearing the commotion, they gathered to watch. How could it be Tailor Gus work? His fabrics are all very good. I've had clothes made at his place. several times, never had any issues. That's right, how could he use such fabric? Voices of doubt gradually rose from the crowd. The woman's face became increasingly unpleasant. You all only know how to bully women. Why would I make up stories to ruin my own reputation? His fabric is exactly this bad. He must compensate me. After speaking, she called over several more people from the crowd, and these women's hands were all damaged clothes. I narrowed my eyes. Even if I were a fool, I would know this was deliberately orchestrated by myself. In a month, I couldn't make that many outfits. Moreover, the people who ordered clothes were of all ages and genders. How coincidentally would only these young women's clothes be damaged? I looked up and around, quickly spotting someone in the crowd who was timidly avoiding eye contact. The owner of the neighboring tailor shop. Just about to step forward, a hand pulled me back from the side. I saw Su Yue slightly shake his head at me. Then he stepped forward, picking up the clothes from the ground. What evidence do you have to prove these clothes were made by this shop? The woman was frightened by his cold demeanor, involuntarily stepping back, but still insisted. What evidence do I have? This fabric and style. Only his shop has them. If he didn't make them, then who else? The woman laughed contemptuously. This style and fabric are all over the street. Nothing exclusive. His shop can make it. Other shops can make it too. He turned the dress over, then pulled out a small piece from the inner fabric. Continuing, anyone who's ever come here for tailoring knows, after completing the work, he has a habit of sewing a small piece of fabric on the inside, with his name embroidered on it as an identifier. This piece is sewn in the wrong place. The characters on it are also wrong. The woman's face suddenly turned pale, stammering, unable to speak. People didn't need to guess anymore. All crowded around pointing at her. Finally unable to withstand everyone's accusing gazes, she revealed the person behind it all. It was the neighboring tailor shop owner. Turned out his shop's business had always been poor. Seeing the neighboring tailor shop close, he was happily thinking he'd have an opportunity, but it turned out to be me instead. Not only reopening the tailor shop, but business was better than before. So he thought of this dirty trick. If the accusation succeeded, my customers would certainly switch to his shop. But now not only did the scheme fail, he himself faced imprisonment. Watching the owner being taken away by police, everyone clapped and cheered. As for those women, they also quietly left during the chaos, but my face was still heavy. Su Yue looked at me with concern. What's wrong? I recounted what had just happened. This incident also gave me a warning. In the future, there will certainly be more such incidents, and the methods will become increasingly sophisticated. Even if they really order clothes from my shop, once they're out of my sight, who knows what tricks they might play on the clothes. I turned my head and stroked the weathered wooden door. A hint of reluctance flashed in my eyes. When I first arrived at this unfamiliar place, I only hoped to learn a trade, to make a living. But not long after opening the shop, something like this happened. At this moment, I wasn't sure whether to continue persevering or not. Su Yue placed a hand on my shoulder. It's all right, innocent people will eventually be vindicated. I've encountered such things before too. When it first happened, I was also extremely panicked. The premium tea leaves from the warehouse were swapped for inferior ones. Facing the customer's anger, I was also confused inside, but then I calmed down, called the police, after thorough investigation and comparison, only then discovered it was the customer's subordinate who was greedy, swapping real goods for fake ones. Since then, I've also learned to be wiser. So I established several ways to counter such situations. Then she continued, we can be flexible depending on the situation, before issues arise. We can also think of countermeasures in advance. A week later, I specially closed the shop, sat with her at the table, discussing countermeasures bit by bit. When the shop reopened, there were even more customers than before, seeing me busy alone without relief. Su Yue even introduced 2 young girls to me, both quick-handed and sharp-eyed. But before I could breathe a sigh of relief, Su Yue brought another piece of news. She had to return to Hainan. It was only then I learned her true identity. She wasn't a tea seller at all, but the granddaughter of a commander in Hainan. Only due to health reasons she came to Jiangnan to recuperate. Now her health had improved. Of course she had to go back. A feeling of reluctance welled up in my heart. When I first arrived in this small town, the first person I met was her. She had also helped me a lot afterward, but we had just become friends. Now we had to face separation. Seeing my reluctant expression, a surge of impulse rose in her heart too, wanting to invite me to go to Hainan with her, but then remembered that whenever we talked, I always avoided mentioning Hainan, as if something unpleasant had happened there. In the end, she suppressed that unrealistic thought. It's all right. I'll leave my home address for you. We can write to each other. Hearing this, despite how much reluctance I felt, I could only hold it back. The day Su Yue left was just like the day I first arrived here. It was raining lightly again. The woman handed me the keys to the tea shop saying, when you have time you can come sit here, to give the tea shop some life. Perhaps one day it'll come back. But both of us understood clearly in our hearts, she was the commander's granddaughter, a special status. How could she easily come back? Watching the car gradually drive away, only then did I withdraw my gaze. But I didn't return to the tailor shop, instead opened my umbrella. I followed the greenstone path step by step back to Su Yue's shop. The moment I pushed the door open, one couldn't help but feel dazed. My eyes gradually moved toward the window, where we once chatted about everything under the Sunday, also told each other many interesting stories. I walked over, sat down in my place, but opposite there was no one to pour hot tea for me anymore. I let out a soft sigh. Clearly, she had just left, yet I already started missing her. I looked toward the door again, hoping that in the next moment, her figure would appear out there again, but waiting until dark. That familiar person still didn't appear. In the north, at the Wen household in Hainan, since divorcing me, Wen Huaixin became like a different person. Her mood grew increasingly cold. The last time she drove Lu Yuchen away, he even tried to drug her, this time with no one to help. He was quickly arrested by the police, taken to jail. Originally with his status as a martyr's relative, he should have received a lighter sentence, but after investigation, many of his past misdeeds were discovered. Combined with Wen Huaixin's own opinion, he not only didn't get a reduced sentence, but faced an even heavier punishment when returning home. Under the dim lights, no one was waiting for her anymore. No hot dinner on the table either. Even though this scene repeated every day, she still couldn't get used to it. Finally, it was the housekeeper who heard the movement, coming out from the room, boiling her a bowl of noodles. Early the next morning, the bodyguard brought her an invitation letter. Only then did she realize that the SU family's granddaughter had recovered and returned. So the SU family organized a banquet to welcome her. For both friendship and propriety, she should attend. Thinking of this, she reflexively wanted to call me to prepare a gift, but suddenly remembered we had been divorced for a long time. In the end, she could only ask the housekeeper to prepare a gift, then drove to the SU family home. The SU family home was brightly lit. When Hao Yixin was also meeting the SU family family's granddaughter for the first time. If she was described as cold and ruthless, then Su Yue was gentle like jade. Such a beautiful person, making the young men couldn't help but blush. After a few simple greetings and giving the gift, she went to the side and sat down, silently looking at the scenery outside the window. To the extent, Su Yue couldn't help but look at Wen Huixin several times. People besides seeing her curiosity quickly stepped forward to explain briefly. Thus she learned about Wen Huixin. She had a very kind ex-husband. To this day hadn't found anyone else. Hearing people describe Wen Huixin's ex-husband, a figure couldn't help but appear in her mind. So she couldn't resist asking, what is her ex-husband's name? Seems to be called Gu Saim. She wasn't interested in hearing anything after that. In her mind were only images of me. So this was why he didn't want to return to Hainan. After the banquet, Elder Lu called her into the study. First was the customary inquiries about his granddaughter's daily life, then asked about some interesting stories from the small town. She patiently recounted everything to him, finally suddenly said, Grandpa, I like someone now. The sip of tea he had just taken was immediately spat out. His granddaughter had always avoided men, yet now she liked a man. He hurriedly waved his hand, signaling that he was fine. Su Yue only then withdrew her hand, continuing, it's just that person. His background. Elder Lu put down his teacup, looking at her seriously, clearly already prepared mentally. That person is Wen Huixin's ex-husband, expecting to be scolded, but she saw him just calmly wave his hand. So what, Grandpa? Aren't you angry? What should I be angry about? Just an ex-husband. If you like him, that's fine. Grandpa won't interfere with this. But I must remind you, people who divorce must have issues with Wen Huixin. You absolutely must not be foolish, following Wen Huixin's example and hurting him. He is a good young man. Joy flashed in her eyes. Does this mean you agree? Elder Lu poured himself another cup of tea. What use is my agreement? Still have to see if he agrees. Not until late at night did the woman leave the elder's study. After returning to her room, she took out a piece of letter paper, held a pen and thought for a long time, finally wrote a few lines of greetings. When I received Su Yui's letter again, Jiangnan was having another rain shower. I sat by the window, looking at the letters sent from Hainan. 1,000 emotions welled up in my heart. Su Yue had left for nearly 3 months. These 3 months, besides tailoring in my shop, I only went to her shop to sit for a while reading the letters she sent, also through those letters, though not in Hainan. I could understand the situation there somewhat. For example, Lu Yuchen, who went with Wen Huixin to Hainan, not only didn't work at the TV station, but ended up in prison. Another example, some young man from some family liked Wen Huixin. Before he could confess, his family quickly locked him at home. While in the south, the marriage between me and Wen Huixin was admired. Even people in Hainan knew a little, so when they saw Wen Huixin didn't bring me, but brought Lu Yuchen to Hainan instead, everyone couldn't help but be curious and confused. After all, no one goes to Hainan without bringing their husband. After learning more, they found out we had divorced. Then looking at Lu Yuchen's actions and words, they also began to look down on Wen Huixin's character, who would fail to distinguish between primary and secondary relationships, abandoning her own husband to care for someone else's husband. I suddenly remembered my previous life. At that time, she also only brought Lu Yuchen to Hainan, but because I was resentful and jealous then, I did things that gave myself a bad reputation. She was only respecting the will, taking care of the martyr's wife. Yet I was so narrow-minded, not a bit of empathy. But now I went with the flow. No arguing, no fuss. The one with a bad reputation instead became Wen Huixin. At the end of the letter, Su Yue also mentioned to me, Wen Huixin still hadn't given up, still always sending people to find my whereabouts. I folded the letter, looking out the window. It had been nearly a year since coming to Jiangnan. This year I had also saved some money. Wen Huixin might temporarily not find me, but if she still wouldn't let go, sooner or later she would find me. It seemed I couldn't stay here much longer. When Haoshin looked at the newly delivered letter, it still said they hadn't found me. She frowned, crumpling the paper in her hand. A full year already, still couldn't find me. From initial confusion to anger, finally becoming the helplessness she felt now. When first caring for Lu Yuchen, she had told everyone that between her and Lu Yuchen, there was nothing unusual, even though later, she repeatedly rescued Lu Yuchen first. It was only because of her comrade's dying wish. I not only didn't believe it, but secretly filed complaints against her. In the woman's memory, I was originally gentle, understanding, yet in this matter couldn't understand her heart. The more she thought, the more troubled she felt. Finally, she took a deep breath, then picked up the phone again, continuing to send people to search. Must find him. While I on this side, didn't pay attention to Wen Huixin looking for me, just happily looked at the woman in front of me. Why did you come back? Su Yue smiled, carrying her luggage in, anxious to see someone. The years of marriage were enough for me to hear the hint in the words of the person in front of me, but having gone through a failed marriage, I also didn't have much energy to maintain a new relationship. I originally intended to gloss over the topic, but the woman grabbed my hand tightly. I don't want to hide my feelings for you anymore. From the first time I met you, I couldn't look at anyone else. This year living together is enough for me to confirm my love for you. I know how Wen Huixin bullied you, but I'm not her, and I won't become her. So can you give me a chance to pursue you? Those sincere words made me blush. After a long while, I finally raised my head to look at her. You also know I had a failed marriage. I am not sure if I can accept a new relationship, if you really want to pursue me. It might take a very long time. Even the final result may not be what you wish. It's okay. I can do it. On the next moment, I was tightly embraced by the woman. The clean scent of wood enveloped me. I was dazed for a long while, before reaching out to hug her back. After the two confessed their feelings, life became somewhat different. On the day we officially became fiancés, I set out on a journey. Since officially dating Su Yue, I knew I would eventually go to Hainan, and would also meet Wen Huixin again. The Su family organized another banquet, and the hosts of this banquet were Su Yue and her fiancé. Wen Huixin knew Su Yue had never been close to men, so she was also curious about this fiancé. But that curiosity when she saw me all turned into resentment and anger. The wine glass in her hand immediately fell to the ground. She stared intensely at the man on the stage. She had been looking for him for 2 years. Yet in the end, he became Su Yue's fiancé. Anger drove her to stride forward. Su Yue immediately stepped forward to block in front of the man. Commander Wen, is there something you're not satisfied with regarding my fiancé? What fiancé? That is my husband. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone also remembered their relationship. Only this time, the one being gossiped about was Wen Huixin. Looking at the pale face of the woman before her, somehow a pang of pain flashed through her heart. In my previous life, I had waited 5 years before she remembered me, brought me up to Hainan. At that time, looking at the two people on stage, side by side, I couldn't control the anger in my heart. Stepped forward to slap Lu Yuchen's face. That's my wife. The scene then was exactly like. Now, people pointed at me without speaking. Even Wen Huixin coldly looked at me, without intervening. Wen Huixin, Are you sick? We've been divorced for a long time. If you're looking for a husband, it should be Lu Yuchen. The woman's face immediately turned white. She looked in disbelief at the man in front of her. Couldn't believe that the person who once loved her to death and back would say such things. Seeing another commotion about to happen, Su Yue raised her hand to have Wen Huaixin escorted out, but the man beside her blocked a step ahead. Let me talk to her privately. I left in a hurry that day. Words left unsaid for 2 years should be clarified. In the garden, I looked at the woman before me, my eyes full of distance and coldness, like her eyes in my previous life looking at me. Do you know why I wanted to divorce you? From the moment you embraced Lu Yuchen in the memorial hall, our marriage already had a crack. Clearly there were many ways to repay gratitude, yet you insisted on sacrificing my future. Clearly each time I had issues, you could have sent others to visit him. Those doctors, police, rescue teams, who wasn't more professional than you. Yet each time you personally took action, you treated him well, even better than me, this ex-husband. Do you know what outsiders say? They all thought you were his wife. How ridiculous it is. That time with the soup. If you truly love me, then from the beginning you should have recognized that the person on the bed wasn't me, not waiting until Lu Yuchen moaned before you reacted. If you truly cared, you would have had someone investigate long ago, not just asking me a few casual questions then forgetting about it. Then there was that earthquake, the incident on the train too. Your first reflex was to abandon me to save him. If it wasn't love, then what was it? Don't use responsibility as an excuse. In the things you did for him, which one fell within the scope of responsibility? Perhaps from bearing the grievances of 2 lifetimes. I couldn't hold back my tears. Pain flashed briefly in the eyes of the person before me, instinctively wanting to step forward to wipe my tears. But I turned my body to avoid it. If possible, I would rather have never known you in this life, even in my previous life. If I hadn't known you from the beginning, it would have been better. I wouldn't have had to suffer so much after marriage, and wouldn't have died so tragically. Looking at my tear-stained face, her heart was like being squeezed by something. Sime, listen to my explanation. I truly never had any feelings for Lu Yuchen. I admit I treated him well before, but everything was because of responsibility. But I no longer had patience to hear her continue. I turned to leave. Wen Huaixin hurriedly tried to follow, but the next moment, a figure rushed out from beside me, punching her directly in the face. Su Yue angrily shouted, "Get out!" Although she knew about my relationship with Wen Huaixin, but didn't expect her to be this excessive. She couldn't imagine that in those 5 years of marriage, how much suffering I had endured. Thinking of this, she wanted to rush forward to hit her again, but was pulled back by the coat behind her. I shook my head slightly. Yue, let it go. Grandpa is still waiting for us. Having said that, I no longer looked at the person on the ground, turned and left. Long after that, the person who was hit sat on the ground, finally regained her senses, using her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth. Looking at the blood stain in her palm, she smiled bitterly. Before, whenever she was injured, I was always the most concerned, but now I wouldn't even give her a glance. After getting engaged, Su Yue had craftsmen make me a gold ring. Looking at the ring fitting perfectly on my hand, I couldn't help but feel moved. Wen Huaixin and I had married twice, but each time the ring she chose didn't fit. When asked, she said she just wanted to get the wedding ceremony done quickly, so she casually took one from Mother Wen, perhaps because it was easily obtained. She didn't know how to cherish my feelings, perhaps before Lu Yuchen appeared. That marriage. These days, Su Yue specially made time, taking me around the streets of Hainan, both big and small, while walking, telling me interesting stories about this place. I finally showed my first smile in days. The woman embraced me, gently comforting me. After I finished dealing with everything here, well, go back to Jiangnan, okay? I looked up, with some concern in my eyes. But if in Hainan, with your status, you can live better in the future. But if returning to Jiangnan, besides that tea shop, there's nothing else left. She smiled and stroked my head. I don't care about those things. As long as I have you by my side, that's enough. That peace didn't last long. Su Yue's bodyguard hurriedly came over. He looked at me and said, "Mr. Jiyu, Commander Wen has been in a car accident. After regaining consciousness, she keeps crying out to see you. Says if you don't come, she'll refuse treatment." The two of us looked at each other, finally got into the car, rushing straight to the hospital. On the way there, I heard the bodyguard briefly explain the situation. After I clarified everything with Wen Huaixin in the garden, she still wouldn't give up, coming to the Su residence every day to intercept me. Once or twice was fine, but many times caused people to gossip. When the Su family was about to drive her away, she fainted in front of the door. In the end, they still had to take her to the hospital. Unexpectedly, as soon as she woke up, she became like a mad woman, frantically looking for me everywhere. Her mouth constantly muttering, "I killed Lu Yuchen." I was wrong. Those delirious words, the more I heard, the more my heart trembled. An ominous premonition rose in my heart. The woman beside me saw me frown. She embraced me, saying worriedly, "If you're not feeling well, let's not go see her." I shook my head slightly. "It's all right." Just as we reached the hospital room door, the guard standing outside showed a difficult expression, stopping me and the woman. The commander said, "Only you can enter alone." I bit my lip, nodded slightly to Su Yue, then stepped inside. As soon as the hospital room door closed, the person on the bed turned around, rushing straight down from the bed to the floor. "Husband," with just that word. I immediately confirmed. When Huaixin had also reincarnated, the woman rushed over, hugging me tightly, her mouth constantly saying, "I am sorry. I am sorry. Only when I saw your corpse did I realize how much I regretted what I had done." At first, she cared for Lu Yuchen, actually just because of her comrade's dying wish, so she paid a bit more attention. But it was precisely that little bit of attention that became a weapon for Lu Yuchen to boast, became a knife to hurt me. Initially, she wanted to seriously explain to me, but each time she opened her mouth, I would argue loudly. Many times like this made her gradually lose patience, added with Lu Yuchen's interference. She gradually drained the last bit of love for me, then threw me into the auxiliary building to fend for myself. Unexpectedly, I committed suicide. Looking at my blood-stained diary, she regretted immensely. It was also at that moment she finally saw Lu Yuchen's true face. Disregarding years of comradeship and Lu Yuchen's pleas, she pulled out the gun from her waist, shot him dead, then shot herself. Perhaps heaven took pity. She was given another chance to live. This time, she said she would never let go of my hand again. She hugged me tightly, expressing countless words of regret. But the more I heard, the colder my heart became. Why did you have to wait until I died before you knew regret? If from the beginning you hadn't treated Lu Yuchen excessively well, how would we have ended up like this? Those years in the auxiliary building were the most desperate time of my life. I heard the servant say how well she treated Lu Yuchen. seeing him pampered by her. Hatred welled up in my heart, but the room door always had armed guards. I couldn't get out at all. The intense hatred in my heart surged up. I unconsciously tightened my hand hanging by my side until my fingertips turned white. I pushed her away forcefully. So, you have also reincarnated? Want to make it up to me? The woman immediately froze, looking at the person in front of her in surprise. Husband, you've also reincarnated? Joy hadn't yet appeared on her face when I had already raised my hand and slapped her. Wen Huaishan, why did you reincarnate? Why won't you let me go yet? My hand stopped in midair, trembling. Tears streamed from the corners of her eyes. I had thought heaven gave me a chance to reincarnate, was taking pity on me. So after reincarnating, I didn't care about anything, only wanted to escape this complicated love. The grievances of the previous life, leave them in the previous to life. But why did she also reincarnate? Moreover, we had been divorced for a long time. Now I am someone else's fiancé. Looking at the gold ring on my hand, like a thunderbolt to her ears, the woman immediately turned pale. But when she saw the tears on my face, she wanted to step forward to embrace me again. But I took a step back. Wen Huaishan, whether you've reincarnated or not, the moment you embraced Lu Yuchen in the memorial hall, our marriage was already destined to have no ending. After speaking, I didn't look at her anymore, turned to leave. Wen Huaishan hurriedly stepped forward to hold me tightly, her voice low and full of pleading. Please don't. Sime, I'm telling the truth. Heaven wanted to give me a chance to pursue you again from the beginning. Please, can you give me another chance? This was the first time she lowered her head to beg. In the previous and current life, the first time she begged me. I laughed coldly, step by step pressing her back. When I begged you not to embrace Lu Yuchen, did you agree? I begged you not to bring Lu Yuchen home. Did you agree? I begged you not to dance the opening dance with Lu Yuchen. Did you agree? I begged you not to take the spouse's job allocation and my TV station job to give to Lu Yuchen. Did you agree? I begged you after the earthquake to come care for me. I wrote letters begging you to bring me to Hainan. I begged you not to lock me in the auxiliary building. Did you agree? Wen Huaishan, how many times have I begged you? Have you ever agreed? Question after question. My voice grew increasingly sharp until I pressed the woman into a corner, with no way to retreat. Only then did I stop, looking at her face growing increasingly pale. I spoke again. Wen Huaishan, from now on, let's not meet again. Every time you appear just makes me feel disgusted, makes me hate you even more. Having said that, I turned and walked out of the hospital room, using all my strength to slam the door shut. A feeling of helplessness immediately overwhelmed the woman. She staggered a few steps and fell to the ground, her heart wrenching in pain. Su Yue saw the man full of tears, heartbroken, quickly embraced him. I hugged her tightly. Sobbing, I said, Yue, can you take me home? Not clear what they had argued about. Just knew that after returning from the hospital, I felt ill. Seeing my silent demeanor, she didn't ask either. Just put aside all her work, focusing on taking care of me at home. After feeding me the last spoonful of porridge, Su Yue handed the bowl to Wen Huaishan. Hearing you were sick, I brought some things and left them at the door. Before she could finish speaking, I had already closed my eyes. Whether due to Wen Huaishan's reincarnation, or for some other reason, I had said so many harsh words to her, but she still hadn't given up. Only this time she didn't block people at the SU family's door, but sent people to deliver various things to me every day. Unfortunately, those things didn't even reach my eyes. Having been thrown into the trash by the nanny, after more than half a month of recuperation, I finally got out of bed. At this moment, Su Yue received an invitation from a close friend, taking me to the riverside to watch fireworks. As soon as we got out of the car, I immediately saw Wen Huaishan coming from the other side. The moment she saw me, her gloomy eyes immediately lit up, but I didn't even glance at her. Arm in arm with Su Yue walking to the other side of the fireworks burst in clusters in the sky, making everyone marvel non-stop. But while everyone was engrossed in watching this fireworks, an unexpected event occurred. Someone